likely have an impact on surgeries for men.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Ignite News Magazine. I'm Megan Petrolo.
And I'm Dimitri Pertikaris. And right now we're in the journalism newsroom, the home of Ignite News. And Megan, obviously being journalism students, we're quite familiar with this workspace.
Definitely. We learn a lot here in this classroom, but we also learn a lot outside of the classroom.
Oh, no question. And recently here at Mohawk, it was a pretty big deal because we had HIV Awareness Week. And it was also very important for Social Inc. Ashley Segato has a story for you.
The McIntyre Theatre filled up quickly as anxious students and staff piled in to hear the presentation that was about to start. Mohawk College's Social Inc. and Hamilton AIDS Network joined together to present an interactive event raising awareness on HIV/AIDS. Heather Drummond is the psychiatrist and counselor at Mohawk College. Drummond was featured in the documentary shown called Positive Youth, which discussed gay men and the stigmas they face and the obstacles they have to go through every day after being confirmed positive.
We do have confidential counseling offered here at the college where we do personal, academic, and career counseling, and it's all confidential. So if students want to have a place to start to kind of, clear their mind, vent their thoughts, that's a good place to start as well. So
Social Inc. is a space at the college that staff has created to give students and staff an opportunity to go to a quiet and secluded area. Social Inc. is designed to hold up to 50 members at a time. It's a place where all rights are reserved and respected and students can feel safe. Marco Felvis is a professor and program coordinator for Human Services. He also coordinates Mohawk Social Inc. and said that last year during first semester, the space was open and they received about 400 students.
Lots of people are coming in. Sometimes people come in for an hour, sometimes 5 minutes, sometimes almost all day. So it's encouraging to see people use the space.
The guest speaker for the World's AIDS Day event bravely talked about his life after being diagnosed with HIV. Alex, who does not want his last name mentioned, said afterwards how important it is to have people to talk to about any issue.
I think it's very important to talk about any kind of issues because if you don't speak, there's pretty much only death. If you keep quiet, you'll die, maybe not physically, but emotionally.
The staff of Social Inc.'s main message that they want to get across to students and staff is that everybody is welcome to come in, even if you want a quiet space to get away or just someone to talk to for any reason. Reporting for Ignite News, I'm Ashley Segato.
Good stuff, Ashley. And you know what? That really ties into our next story because when you put the stigma of HIV and AIDS aside, Mohawk's LGBTQ community, they have challenges of their own.
Yeah, definitely. And our Ignite News reporter, Alicia Gallant, sat down with a local activist to discuss the issues so simple such as language can really affect them.
University of Alberta is studying the use of 4 phrases on Twitter. And every day at midnight, they restart the clock. And if you go to nohomophobes.com, you can see this real-time tweeting happening, and they count how many times the word faggot is said, how many times the phrase "that's so gay," the phrase "no homo," and dyke. And faggot is the top used word by far and wide. Thousands and thousands and thousands of times in a 24-hour period is that word used. And it's the most violent, offensive word to refer to a gay man because it refers to being burned at the stake and using gay men's bodies to burn people at the stake. That's why faggot was transferred to that.
A lot of people use this offensive language, and for many reasons. Terms such as "that's so gay" and "no homo" are rampant in popular culture. But Deirdre wants people to understand that just because it's popular, it doesn't mean that it's acceptable.
I think the most incessant phrase, of course, is "that's so gay." I have a great concern that people use the word gay as an offensive insult. Taking somebody's identity and using it as an insult is not just offensive. It actually causes damage to, especially young people's psyche if they do identify as gay, and then all day long they hear people say, "That's so gay," meaning bad, stupid, wrong, or ugly. Men, young and old, will embrace themselves, will embrace each other, or comment, "Oh, that's a nice shirt, buddy, but no homo," to deflect their, just what should be a simple opportunity to make a compliment. So, these phrases, I think people think they're just so funny. And
The word queer used to be a term used negatively towards the LGBTQ community, but Deirdre thinks that the community is starting to become more comfortable with that word.
It's not offensive when it's an identity, unless somebody is labeling you that. So when I walk down the street and someone yells, "Hey, you big queer," That's a little different. But with that reclamation of language, you can kind of pick yourself up and say, that's right, I am. Thanks very much.
Wow, so we still have a long way to go, and I can't imagine what it was like 20 or 30 years ago. Chris Luckett recently did a review on this new movie called Dallas Buyers Club, and it's about that time and when HIV was directly related to the gay community. Here's the review.
Mr. Woodruff, you've tested positive for HIV. Have you ever used intravenous drugs? Have you ever engaged in homosexual conduct?
Homo. You say homo? You made a mistake. That ain't me.
Mr. Woodruff, we estimate you have 30 days left.
Matthew McConaughey doesn't get enough credit. Yes, he's done his share of stinkers like Sahara, but he's also done gems like A Time to Kill and Contact. Over the last few years, McConaughey has refocused himself and delivered strong performances in The Lincoln Lawyer, Bernie, Magic Mike, and Mud. His acting in Dallas Buyers Club is the apex of his career so far. Set in 1985, when misinformation about AIDS polluted the national conversation and most associated it purely with gay people, Dallas Buyers Club centers on a volatile, vulgar, homophobic Texan named Ron Woodruff, who is diagnosed with HIV and given 30 days to live. Woodruff finds experimental drugs in Mexico that help him, but that aren't approved by the FDA, so he begins smuggling them over the border. He reluctantly teams up with Rayon, a transgender drug addict, to help him distribute the medicine to AIDS sufferers. To get around the legal restrictions of selling unapproved drugs in the U.S., Woodruff charges people to join what he dubs Dallas Buyers Club, which then gives them free access to all of his drugs. His ensuing and escalating battle with the FDA and the U.S. government echoes his battle with AIDS. Both last far longer than anyone expected, but the outcome to both is ultimately inevitable. McConaughey shed nearly 50 pounds to play Woodruff, and he learned to carry his gaunt body completely differently. He's given great performances before, but nothing was even in the same league as his work here. Leto is also absolutely brilliant. He stayed in character for 25 days of filming, and he completely disappears in Rayon. Whether you know Jared Leto from TV, movies, or his band 30 Seconds to Mars, there's virtually no recognizing him in Rayon, even when all the makeup and the outfits are stripped away.
Just promise me you'll show up for the rest of the trial.
I promise you that I will try my very best.
I want you to mean it.
Dallas Buyers Club tells a similar tale as Philadelphia did, but it does much more with its true story. The characters are complex, the performances are powerful, and the story is both inspiring and haunting. Ron and Rayon are one of the most unusual pairings this year, but they're also one of the most fascinating. Dallas Buyers Club gets 4.5 stars out of 5. For Ignite Entertainment, I'm Chris Luckett.
It's a great time of the year, and no matter how you celebrate your holidays, we have a couple of great stories that we hope you enjoy. Here they are.
From November 22nd until December 12th, Social Inc. is hosting Merry Everything.
Social Inc. has brought a bunch of different holidays together. We're trying to get everyone involved, everyone feeling welcome in our school. So there's a bunch of things going on, activities, a lot of education happening today as well. So the objective is just to have everyone feel welcome and inclusive in the school.
While many holidays are displayed every day, each day a different holiday is highlighted. On November 26th, Social Inc. worker Suzanne Harvey was informing students about winter solstice.
It's celebrated on December 21st, the shortest day of the year. It's typically known as the rebirth of the sun, so the days will become longer after that day. So people celebrate a lot like the Christmas traditions with feasting and singing and drinking. Today's sample is a wassail, known as apple cider, typically with alcohol, but today it is alcohol-free.
Mohawk student Marcia Wynn got involved during the celebrations by stopping to decorate cookies.
Christmas is important to me because it's a symbol in the Christian faith that's when Jesus Christ came into the world. And that is important to me because he is the Savior, our Savior.
It is a casual event where students can browse the holidays on display.
I think it's great that they're displaying all the different cultural events that everyone celebrates, and so everyone could get to know and understand what everyone else is doing. It's a great thing.
With Mohawk students representing more than 100 countries, there are many holidays to celebrate this time of year. So remember to wish students a Merry Everything. For Ignite News, I'm Kyle Williamson.
Hey, Megan, what are you doing?
I'm just dining in the dark.
Why are you doing that?
Well, Marcy recently just did a report on dining in the dark, and it seems like a pretty cool experience. Take a look at her story.
The Stonewalls pub was packed with blindfolded people last Wednesday night, all for the Sunset Dining in the Dark experience. The event was organized by volunteer group Sense for Change in order to raise awareness for the blind and money for the CNIB. Len Baker, Executive Director for the CNIB in Ontario, believes Dining in the Dark is a great event.
I think that this is an awesome event. I think that the number of volunteers that are behind the scenes making this happen and the support we're getting from the community. There's over 90 people here tonight that have a real interest in the work that CNIB does in their community, and they're showing that by coming out on a work night to participate in an event that's designed to help raise awareness about the work that we do and raise money to support the work that we do in the community. So I think it's incredible.
Chef Mike Benninger explains how the menu was chosen very specially for this event.
Chef Fred, the actual chef here at Stonewalls in Hamilton, he and I sat down and thought to ourselves, let's combine heat and sweet, texture, crispy, tangy, familiar. We want things that smelled good, that were also captivating for the senses, that weren't only hot or cold. We want to kind of combine it because it's all about senses that you don't have when you can't see.
Fatima Mirza admits that dining in the dark was not an easy task, but it helps her understand the clients she works with.
I work for the Canadian Deaf and Blind Association, so it really gives me like an understanding of what my clients go through, so it's great. Here at the Stonewalls pub, eating with a blindfold on proves to be a tougher task than it looks. Reporting for Ignite News, I'm Marcy Colbert.
You know, I love playing games on my phone when I have the time, and if you're maybe more of a serious gamer and you're looking for a good challenge, there's a new game called XCOM. Patrick Fenton checked it out. It looks awesome. Here it is for you.
The XCOM franchise has been testing players since 1994, and in 2012, when the franchise was reimagined with Enemy Unknown, it was hailed by critics and gamers alike. It also didn't hurt that Sid Meier, primary designer of the Civilization franchise, headed the project. The Enemy Within expansion adds plenty of depth to an already densely packed game. In addition to the new storylines, character customization has been expanded, and the soldier classes have all been tweaked. Also in the squad selection screen, there is a new button that removes unused soldiers' equipment to streamline the mission preparations. The soldiers' voices have been updated as well to fit their nationalities. In fact, there is so much going on in the game that players will be hard-pressed to try every customization in just one playthrough. Playing on the PC, the game runs smooth and only has very minor glitches. If the new mech and genetically engineered soldiers have a downside, it is that by the final mission, the squad can be so powerful that the mission itself is underwhelming. If it has a downside. XCOM Enemy Within is the definition of how to make a game expansion.
In my book, that's a win, Doctor.
For Ignite News, I'm Patrick Fenton.
So it's almost the end of the year, which means it's the beginning of a new fiscal year.
And it also means that Hamilton City Councillors have been very busy preparing for the new budget. Rachel Williams has a story for you.
Council Chambers was host to presentations by city staffers about next year's fiscal outlook. General managers of 6 divisions discussed their preliminary findings. According to their reports, the city is looking at an increase of 2.8% in annual spending.
That's just the beginning. They're giving us the go-ahead, so we're basically giving them some direction where we'd like to see the cuts, where we won't like to see the cuts. We don't want services to be cut.
Unfortunately, for Ward 11 Councillor Brenda Johnson and city staffers, the provincial government just cut $7 million to deal with the city's homelessness, and that might not be where it ends.
We get provincial downloading all the time, and we're constantly struggling with it. We have programs that we're running right now into this city hall that the province really should be taking over and doing.
Councillor Chad Collins had his own issues with the budget process.
We have a long list of projects that are in line, they're in queue to be funded over a period of years, and so you start to look at those projects and you wait for them to come to the time when they're going to be funded, and then you see this long list of new projects that's bumped, some that have waited for years in the book. And so that's concerning.
According to Collins, there are 137 projects from past years that have not been started but are in the budget. This represents $51.6 million worth of work. These include improvements to local schools, playgrounds, and other public works projects.
The more projects we see in the books, the more pressure there is on the tax levy.
What the city has guaranteed is that the process will be more transparent via the use of social media. Entrepreneurial journalist Joey Coleman is excited about the decision.
It's important for the city to engage with citizens, especially on the budget, especially in an election year, because it's going to be the main topic of discussion.
Although there are still lots of decisions to be made, what we do know is that planning for 2014 is going to be a daunting task. Reporting for Ignite News, I'm Rachel Williams.
You know, I really love live performances, and Canadian artist Vita Chambers does them really well.
Yeah, she does. And Vita was actually recently here at Mohawk College. She was visiting the Ignite Radio studio, and we actually have a profile on her. Here's Jennifer Taylor with the story.
Vita Chambers' first single, Fix You, hit the airwaves this time last year. Since then, the pop artist has toured Canada and tells us what inspires her as an artist.
I remember just watching Michael Jackson, Tina Turner, Queen on stage and well, not live, God, I wish. But no, like watching their performances on video and just feeling this excitement and just this fire that I wanted to do that and I had to do that.
And do you have plans to release an album anytime soon?
I do have plans to release an album anytime soon. No, it's I'm going to be releasing more singles,
right?
But definitely an album will be coming, I promise. But I'm still molding it. I'm still finding pieces of it that I definitely want to be part of it. But when it does come out, it's going to be interesting.
What do you hope to aspire in the near future? Like, where do you see yourself being?
Oh gosh, I see myself, hopefully, having a world tour.
Right.
Yes, and having fans all over the world, and reaching as many people as I can, putting out music all the time, and just it being well received and really helping people through my music.
Now, I think I remember being told that you have actually an apartment in Hamilton?
I do.
So how does it feel to be back in Hamilton?
It's great. I love Hamilton. My parents always came back here. My mom grew up here.
Right.
So I always came back here every year when I was younger. Hamilton's great. There's a great great music scene here that I didn't even know about.
It's growing too.
It's very much so.
Do you have a large following here in Hamilton?
I do, actually. I had a show here and I didn't realize I had lots of Hamiltonian fans. It was great, but Hamilton's great. There's a great scene, there's a great vibe, there's a great energy here, and it's very artsy, which is something I love. I hate like over commercialized things or industrial things, so it's very homey and perfect.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
It was a pleasure.
Likewise.
Hey Megan, have you seen any good movies lately?
Yeah, actually I have. I just saw Catching Fire. It was so good. I'm such a fan. I read all the books.
You know, I've actually heard some pretty good things. I haven't read the book, and I haven't seen the movie yet. What's it all about?
Well, I feel like Chris Luckett would be the best person to describe the movie for you. Take a look at his recent review.
The presidential palace, the party of the year. Eyes bright, chins up, smiles on. I'm talking to you, Katniss.
20 or 30 years ago, film adaptations usually didn't have to worry about following their source books exactly. But the recent surge of adaptations with rabid fan bases has led to filmmakers being afraid to cut scenes that worked in the book, but don't in the movie. Catching Fire is a better movie than The Hunger Games was, but it still ultimately falls into the same traps by treating its source novel as gospel. A year after the events of The Hunger Games, victors Katniss and Peeta have returned to their lives in District 12, but are continually haunted by nightmares and PTSD flashbacks. Katniss's defiance of the rules of the previous Hunger Games has led to sparks of rebellion amidst the volatile, oppressed districts of Panem.
We have to go, Gale, before they kill us. They will kill us.
What about the other families? Huh? The ones who stay. What happens to them? People are looking at you, Katniss.
I don't want anyone looking to me.
President Snow wants to quell any insurrection before it starts and blames Katniss for the uprisings. Along with the new game maker, Snow creates a Survivor All-Stars edition of the Hunger Games, allowing for the re-reaping of Katniss and Peeta and giving Snow the chance to eliminate Katniss for good. Catching Fire tells a somewhat similar story as the first movie, while crafting more complex characters and darker tones than the original had time for. What could have felt reheated instead feels amped up in scale and stakes. It also doesn't hurt that this had twice the budget of the Hunger Games, as the visual effects are much better this time around. All the returning actors are excellent, particularly Jennifer Lawrence and Donald Sutherland, and new additions like Philip Seymour Hoffman, Jeffrey Wright, and Jenna Malone fit right in. If there's a flaw with the movie, it's its slavishness to the pacing of the book. The first half of Catching Fire is all character development and setup, which worked much better in literary form than it does cinematically. By the time the games actually begin, the movie's almost 2/3 done, which barely worked in the first film and here just feels uneven. The final book of Suzanne Collins' trilogy, Mockingjay, is being split into 2 movies, like the Harry Potter and Twilight climaxes. Carrying the momentum of Catching Fire forward will be the filmmaker's biggest challenge, as this one does mostly everything right and does it better than the first one. But just maybe, by stretching the story over 2 movies, Mockingjay will be forced to accept being different from its book.
Remember who the real enemy is.
Catching Fire gets 4 stars out of 5. For Ignite Entertainment, I'm Chris Luckett.
You know, Megan, Neil Reyes and Noah Saylor, they're a couple classmates of ours. They really know their music.
Definitely. And here's a look at what they think are the top 5 albums of the year.
Hi, I'm Noah Salo.
And I'm Neil Reyes.
And we're here to count down our top 5 albums of 2013. 2013 was a pretty great year for music. What do you think, Neil?
Yeah, it was an absolutely fantastic year. Lady Gaga, brand new albums. Justin Timberlake, 2 albums. Paul McCartney, of all people. David Bowie, of all people, had a brand new album this year. But what we're going to do today is try and break down the 5 albums that you need to own and need to listen to for 2013. So we'll start with number 5, our pick for the 5th best album of the year.
Pure Heroin. Royals is probably the most influential single of this year.
Easily. And if you break it down into its pieces, it's simply a drum track, a synthesizer, and Lord's vocals. And that's what you're getting in Pure Heroin. It's a really, really minimalist album.
Nobody else sounds anything like her. You can't mistake her for anyone.
And with such sharp writing on Royals itself, White Teeth Teens, this is a girl who is clearly aware of who she is and what she wants to do as an artist. And for that reason, it is our number 5 album for 2013.
Our number 4 album is the first album by Daft Punk in 7 years.
Random Access Memories.
Now, Daft Punk are known as a French house electronic band, but what's really interesting about this album is that it features primarily live instrumentation.
And very much like Lorde, the first single from the album, Get Lucky, transcended radio stations. It was very, very difficult between May and June to not hear Get Lucky on the radio, and that is why it is our number 4 album for 2013. The number 3 album in our list for top 5 albums of 2013 is The Knife, Shaking the Habitual.
Well, The Knife is from Sweden, and it's a brother-sister electronic music duo. The band's first single from the album, Full of Fire, is a exploration of gender politics that has a unique tongue-in-cheek reappropriation of the Salt and Pepper chorus, Let's Talk About Sex, Baby, except in this song it's Let's Talk About Gender, Baby.
To know that this is sitting underneath what you would hear in a club is really sort of a radical idea.
Yeah, and another thing that's interesting about the album is just the way that the vocals are dealt with. It's hard to tell when it's natural or when it's not, and that goes on to the music as well. There is natural instrumentation, real drums, flutes, and stuff, but sometimes it's hard to tell if it's real or fake, or real or synthetic, and that's part of the theme of the album, you know, what is real.
And that's why it is our number 3 album for 2013. Our number 2 album for 2013 is easily the best Canadian album for 2013 as well. It is Arcade Fire's The Reflector.
This album was released three years after their 2010 Grammy win for Album of the Year with The Suburbs, and it's completely different.
Yes, The Suburbs was an incredible tale about suburbia and modern life. With Reflector, you've got Colin Stetson helping out, you've got David Bowie on the opening single. It is a complete 360-degree turn from The Suburbs.
The band also traveled to Haiti to visit band member Regine's home country, and they picked up some musical stylings from Haiti, like rah-rah music, which was performed often during parades, and you can hear a lot of that influence on the phenomenal song Here Comes the Nighttime, which is probably my favorite song of the year.
They're bold, they're artistic, and they make great music, and it's undoubtedly one of the best albums of the year. Our number one pick for album of the year is Vampire Weekend's Modern Vampires of the City.
Vampire Weekend is awesome. They've released 3 albums. Each one has been a highlight for the year it was released in. And this is the best one they've done yet so far.
It's different from what they've done before. Quirky, erratic, yet catchy. It's an unbelievable combination. And the fact that they're able to do it time and time again is remarkable.
As far as I'm concerned, this is what pop music should sound like. It's catchy, it's interesting, it gets stuck in your head, and more than any other album that came out this year, whenever I put this album on, I smile. I can't help but smile. You can't help but smile listening to a song like Diane Young, just the quirky vocal of that song.
Yes, Diane Young as a single, easily my favorite song of the year.
The band did a lot of interesting pitch shifting on this CD. Another example is another single, Yeah Hey, which the band's background vocals are pitch shifted to sound like a children's choir mixed with the Chipmunks. It's just absolutely strange, but the song is very serious, and it's a weird juxtaposition.
And they still managed to do this with catchy hooks and a lot of choruses that ring in your head. And that is why it is our number one album for 2013. 2, 1.
That's all for today. Thanks for watching Ignite News Magazine. I'm Megan Petrolo.
And I'm Dimitri Pertikaris, and be sure to check us out at ignitenews.ca. Take care.
Environmentally sustainable and economically sustainable.
That most likely have an impact on surgery.